it is possible for man to awaken to this higher mental consciousness, to become the mental being. And he has got a footnote, which is a huge footnote, so I'll read it at the end. Okay. What he means is mental being can be available on many planes, okay, above the mind, higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, all these also you can be aware of your mental being. You are not the physical being, you are not the vital being, but you become the mental being. You are aware of yourself as a being, as an entity, as an individual living in the mental world. Okay. Now, to become this mental being, put on this mental nature and live not only in the vital and physical sheaths, but in this mental body. Although your body is down there and a little bit of consciousness is there in the body, there is a little bit of consciousness also in the vital, but most of the consciousness is there in the mind, and you identify yourself as your mind. Okay? If there were a sufficient completeness in this transformation, he would become capable of a life and a being at least half divine. If the sufficient completeness is there, in other words, your consciousness, which is, let us say, 100%, okay, it should not be there is only 50% up there. It should be at least 75, 80%. The rest of it you are conscious. There is a little bit of consciousness in the body, okay, and there is also a little bit of consciousness in the vital, but most of it is the mental plane. And if it is there, you will become at least half divine, because you will not be identifying yourself with your body and vital, but you will be identifying yourself with a mind which is above the normal logical mind. Okay? For he would enjoy powers and a vision and perceptions beyond the scope of this ordinary life and body. He would be able to see the thoughts of others, he would be able to see the emotions of others, he would be able to see also that, if he is lucky, it depends on, everybody doesn't have the same experience. He can also feel himself to be one with everybody else. He can have the cosmic consciousness. That's what Swami is saying. Okay? He would enjoy powers and a vision and perceptions. So just imagine. So first of all, powers. Powers means you would have the power to watch yourself and change yourself to a certain extent. And also you have a vision. Vision of what? Vision of other people's soul, other people's thoughts, other people's emotions. You would have the power and the vision would come. Subtle vision. And perceptions. You will have to see also what could happen beyond the scope of this ordinary life and body. So all these things would be there. He would govern all by the clarities of pure knowledge. Okay? The knowledge is at our level very mixed and we are always in confusion. We don't know what to do at a certain time. When we read Srimad or Synthesis or Life Divine, there is a little confusion. We don't know. But when you are in that level, there is clarity of pure knowledge. You have no doubts as to, there may be limitation, but there is no impurity. There is clarity of pure knowledge. Then he is saying he would be united to other beings. There you are. That's a cosmic consciousness. United to other beings by sympathy of love and happiness. Not only you would be loving others, but it would be not a neutral love, but a very happy love. Okay? Love and happiness. You will be very, you will enjoy your sympathy and your unity with others. In fact, I'll make a slight diversion here. He says that you can enjoy this relation with others in 4 ways. Okay? First of all, you would be fully conscious of your own happiness, number 1. Then you would be very conscious of the other person's happiness. So let us say that Jasmine is in the mental world and she will be very happy to, she will see that she herself is very happy, number 1. Number 2, she will be very perceptive. She will be able to see the happiness of, let us say, Archana Ji. That's the second one. Then the third one would be that she is capable of seeing Archana's happiness and relation with somebody else, let us say Shilpa. These are the four ways you can enjoy this happiness. He says this elsewhere, not here. Okay? So wide and so wonderful it would be. Okay? So that's what he said. Then he would enjoy love and happiness. His emotions would be lifted to the perfection of the psycho-mental plane. The psychic plane is intraconscient in yourself, but the mental plane is above. Okay, the you can say it is the higher mind level. So it would be, both would be operative. That's what he's saying. Sometimes when you are in the higher mind, the psychic may not be awake. Okay, that's what happened to Sri Aurobindo very clearly, because he says there is no emotion at all. In Baroda, when he had the silent mind, there was absolutely no emotion at all. No thought, no emotion. But if you are in the psychic consciousness, there will be a tremendous amount of emotion, love, sympathy, devotion to God. But you may not have knowledge because you are not there. But it is possible for you to be in both. That's what he's saying. You are in the psychic world as well as the mental world, and there is a connection between the two. Psycho-mental plane. Okay? His sensations rescued from grossness, his intellect subtle, pure and flexible, delivered from the deviations of the impure pranic energy and the obstructions of matter. Now let's have a look at what he's saying here. He's saying his sensations rescued from grossness. Now, how to understand this? Your sensations will also become subtle. Okay? They will become so subtle that there will be no grossness. So what does that mean? If you are eating something, okay, which is very, very vital, okay, you are enjoying in a very gross manner, that gross manner, the sensation will become very, very subtle. That which was gross in the beginning will become subtle. I think we can say that suppose I won't go to meat and peat and all that, but I'll go to ice cream. Ice cream is something that you all like. But is it not true that sometimes we eat the ice cream with a little bit of greed? So we enjoy it with greed. But when you are in that higher plane, the greed will not be influencing you. You will enjoy in a very subtle way, you will enjoy the ice cream. That's what Swami is saying. Grossness will not be there. Grossness means greed. It will not be there. But enjoyment can be there without greed. That's what he means by sensations rescued from grossness. Right? It is so interesting the way he is describing it. His intellect will be subtle, pure and flexible. You will not get confused. There will be clarity of thought and logic. You will be able to perceive everything and do the right thing. Delivered from the deviations of the impure pranic energy and the obstructions of matter. So matter also is it keeps you glued to the body, but you will not be glued to the body. Most of it will be above in the higher worlds. Your vital will become pure and there will be subtle enjoyment of everything. Your intellect will become clear. You will be able to understand 10 times more and you will be not rooted in your body needs. That's what Sri Aurobindo is saying. Wonderful thing to be in. Huh? So this is the higher mind level. Okay. And he would develop too the reflection of a wisdom and a bliss higher than any mental joy and knowledge. So even wisdom will come. In other words, those things which you did not understand earlier, now you will begin to understand. For he could receive more fully and without our incompetent minds deforming and falsifying mixture, the inspirations and intuitions that are the arrows of the supramental light and form his perfect mental existence in the mold and power of the vaster splendor. So he's saying, normally at our level, when the intuition is coming down, it is like a light which is coming in a medium. Let us say, take a glass of water which is full of dirt, and after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the dirt will settle at the bottom. So if you look at the glass, you will see that it is quite pure in the higher part, and as you keep going down towards the bottom of the glass, you will see it becoming gray, and finally at the bottom, it will be absolutely black because the mud is there in it. So this is exactly what happens to you. You are, the obstructions of matter will not be there, and the mind, when the intuition is coming, intuition is a light that enters the mind. Because your mind is pure and not dirty, the light will be able to come into your mind without obstruction. That's what he's saying. But normally our mind is like a glass of water in which mud is thrown and mixed, so that even the higher parts are dirty. So then when the light is shining, the light will not be able to come in very well. Okay? So that's what he's saying. He would develop too the reflection of a wisdom and bliss higher than any mental joy or knowledge. For he could receive more fully, and without our incompetent minds deforming and falsifying mixture, what would he receive? The inspirations and intuitions that are the arrows of the supramental light. It's not a flood of light, but it's an arrow. In other words, the supermind is coming down, but when it enters the lower planes, it becomes reduced. It becomes only an arrow. But note, the word arrow is very interesting. It is sharp and is capable of coming into the lower planes. So, very interesting image he has used. And we have to learn to give the full value to the images he uses. Okay, so and form his perfected mental existence in the mold and power of a vaster splendor. He is using the word vaster splendor. It may be not necessarily the supermind, but that's very difficult. But it could be the illumined mind, or it could even be the intuitive mind, vaster splendor. He could then realize too the self or spirit in a much larger and more luminous and more intimate intimacy than is now possible, and in a greater play of its active power and bliss in the satisfied harmony of his existence. So we'll have a look and then we'll read the footnote. He could then realize too the self or spirit. In other words, he could be conscious of the Atman, the self, the Brahmic consciousness, in a much larger and more luminous and more intimate intimacy than is now possible, with a greater play of the active power and bliss in a satisfied harmony of his existence. 90% of the time, even if there is a harmony in our relation with others and within oneself, it is not fully satisfactory. But this harmony is usually not even there. Okay? There is a constant war between your mind and your vital and even the body. The body needs rest, but you say, no, I can't rest. The mind says, don't eat too much, and still you will eat too much. Okay? So this is the fight between the body, vital, and mind. And this truth is represented in an image which is like a grandfather has a daughter. Okay, the grandfather is the mind, and the daughter is the vital, and the daughter has a small child who is pestering her. So she starts beating the child. Okay, this is the image that comes. Okay, and because the vital is often misusing the body. Very often we are doing that. We are demanding too much of the body. Even when we eat a little too much, you are misusing the body. You are punishing the body. So this is the image that comes. Okay. So now we read the footnote. Swamina is saying he has used the word mind, but when he says the mind, what a mental being, it's not at one level. Okay? So what he means is mind with a P cap, with an M cap. He means that there is a whole range. Okay? So let's read the footnote and we'll see what he's saying. I include here in mind not only the highest range of mind ordinarily known to man, that means our mental being, where we have logic and we have thoughts. Okay? But Sridhar is saying when I say mind, I also include yet higher ranges to which he has either no current faculty of admission or else only a partial and mixed perception of some faint portion of their powers. So he includes mind, the illumined mind, the intuitive mind, and finally the creative overmind. All this is also including in the term mind. Okay? Or Maya. Maya starts at the overmind level. Remember that. Okay? Maya is the power to divide, power to make forms. That starts at the overmind level. That's why he said creative overmind or Maya, which stands far above and is the source of our present existence. The supermind is a creator itself. It has the capacity to create and it starts creating, but the division starts occurring in the overmind. And when there is a division, you can define it. You can define it. Okay, it's a question of nomenclature. You can say that it is ignorance. Knowledge would be absolute oneness. So that's why Sridhar says even the overmind is a beginning of ignorance. You start seeing the many. Creative. It is creating. Out of the one, it's creating several. Okay? So creative overmind or Maya. Another word for that is Maya. Maya is the power of the mind to create forms, limitations out of the illimitable, which stands far above and is the source of our present existence. If mind is to be understood only as reason or human intelligence, then the free mental being and its state would be something much more limited and very inferior to the description given here. So in this whole paragraph that he is talking about, I am not talking of the normal human mind, but I am talking of mind as we experience it in the spiritual planes of consciousness. He has not mentioned, strangely enough, higher mind he has not mentioned, but his meaning, because he is talking of the higher mind, probably he has not written the higher mind, but he is talking of the illumined mind above the higher mind, the intuitive mind above the illumined mind, and finally the overmind. These are the four planes of mental consciousness above the normal human mind. Okay? So this is what Sridhar said. It is possible for man to go there. Hundreds of yogis have been able to do that. They go to the higher plane of consciousness, experience the self, and come down, and they are never again the same. Even if you have a touch of the higher mind, you can never be the same in your ordinary life anymore. If you have a touch of the psychic also, there is not even full experience, but even a touch. You will never be the same again. Your whole life will take a U-turn. That's what she means. Okay? So now we can go to the next one.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
You know, you have all these near death experiences, and people see light at the end of the tunnel and feel intense love. So maybe at that time they have a little glimpse of the psychic being, and then when they come back and they are back in their body, they feel that their life is changed. They are more understanding, more loving. So have they had a glimpse of the psychic?
No, not the psychic. Because when you are going out of your body, you are not going inside your body. Remember, I told you that there is the inside of your body. Okay? That's at the horizontal level. The psychic is horizontal. But when you have you are referring to the near death experience. Yes, ma'am? You are referring to the near death experience, which is the being,
Yes, yes, yes.
it goes vertically up. So normally you would experience bliss, peace, power, okay? You will see light. All these things are possible. Ananda also is possible, but not the psychic. The psychic is inside you. That's a different experience. Necessarily, verticality does not include the vital in the beginning. horizontality, if you want, that is the psyche. Okay. And when you go up vertically, all these things are possible, depending on the nature, individual nature. You can have power, you can have ananda, you can have wisdom, knowledge, and you can have peace, you can have a sense of release, mukti, okay? And a calm, quiet happiness, all this sense of infinity, all these things are there, but not emotion. Sometimes emotion can come if you have ananda, but it is a pure spiritual ananda, not a psychic ananda. Because you are up, you are in the verticality, you are not in the horizontality. Okay?
Okay, merci.
Yeah. So now we can read the next one. And to our ordinary notions. By the way, all of you, I'm telling you, there are very interesting books. Huh? Raymond Moody, okay, is a fellow. If you type on the internet Google, you will get all his books and you can read. He has done a lot of research. He has done about 200 cases of near-death experience where they have experienced death in the body, but the being has gone out and comes back and gives a report of what it has experienced. This is the momentary experience of the self. Okay. And everybody experiences in a different way. Everybody cannot experience in the same way. Some may have knowledge, some may have peace, some may have light, some may have, they'll be seeing, there'll be love. Okay. That Anita Moorjani is very interesting case where she had unconditional love for everybody. And she could also see. Okay. She was a cancer patient in Hong Kong. She was a Canadian, an Indian Canadian. So, and there's another one also, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Okay, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. If you're interested in these experiences of the what you call the near-death experience, it will become very clear to you if you read all those experiences. Okay. Since Yasmin referred to it, I'm just telling you where you can find all these details. Okay. These are very practical details as normal man would be interested in. When Swamendra is talking about all these experiences, he is talking from such a high level, okay, that they don't go into all these small details. And those details you can get in those other people's experiences. But they are genuine, huh? They are not false. Okay, so now let's read. And to our ordinary notions. Who will read? So, okay, you want to read?
Yes.
Go ahead. And to our ordinary notions.
And to our ordinary notion, okay. And to our ordinary notions, this may well seem to be a consummate perfection, something to which man might aspire in its highest flight of idealism. No doubt, it would be a sufficient perfection for the pure mental being in its own character, but it would still fall far below the greatest possibilities of the spiritual nature. For here, too, our spiritual realization would be subject to the limitations of the mind, which is in the nature of a reflected, diluted, and diffused, or a narrowly intensive light, not the vast and comprehensive self-existent luminosity and joy of the Spirit. That vaster light, the profounder bliss, are beyond the mental reaches. Mind, indeed, can never be a perfect instrument of the Spirit. A supreme self-expression is not possible in its movements because to separate, divide, limit is its very character. Even if mind could be free from all positive falsehood and error, even if it could be all intuitive and infallibly intuitive, it could still present and organize only half-truth or separate truth, and these too, not in their own body, but in luminous representative figures put together to make an accumulated total or a massed structure. Therefore, The self-perfecting mental being here must either depart into pure spirit by the shedding of its lower existence, or return upon the physical body to develop in it a capacity not yet found in our mental and psychic nature. This is what the Upanishad expresses when it says that the heavens attained by the mind, Purusha, are those to which man is lifted by the rays of the sun, the diffused, separated, though intense beams of the supramental truth consciousness, and from these it has to return to the earthly existence. But the illuminates who, renouncing earth life, go beyond through the gateways of the sun, do not return hither. The mental being exceeding his spheres does not return, because by that transition he enters a high range of existence peculiar to the superior hemisphere. He cannot bring down its greater spiritual nature into the lower triplicity. For here, the mental being is the highest expression of the self. Here, the triple mental, vital, and physical body provides almost the whole range of our capacity and cannot suffice for that greater consciousness. The vessel has not been built to contain a greater Godhead or to house the splendor of the supramental force and knowledge.
Not a very big para and quite interesting. We'll have a quick look at it. We can finish it today. We still have 15 minutes. So I'll go into detail because there are some things which I try to identify the words, okay, and what it means. We must know exactly which word means what. Okay, so. And to our ordinary notions, this may well seem to be a consummate perfection, something to which man might aspire in his highest flights of idealism. So, what exactly he means by idealism? In other places, the way he has used the word, we can say very clearly that the idealistic world is a spiritual world. In other words, when he talks of idealistic planes of consciousness, he is meaning very clearly the pure four planes of spiritual existence. Higher mind, genuine mind, intuitive mind, and the overmind. This is what he means by idealism. Okay, so he's saying that we may feel that that is more than enough. That's what he's saying. Ordinary notions, this may well seem to be a consummate perfection. That is the reason why most of the people who experience these higher planes of consciousness, they think that that's a last. Even the Upanishads speak of the Brahmic consciousness as something which is almost the last. They do mention other things, but that's the impression that you will get when you read the Upanishads. The Brahmic consciousness is fine. But Srila is saying clearly that may well seem to be, but actually you can go beyond. That's what he's saying. Now, I read the next sentence. So, highest flights of idealism, the overmind. Not more than that. Okay. The highest flights of idealism. Idealism, I told you, spiritual planes of consciousness, which goes right up to the overmind level. No doubt, it would be a sufficient perfection for the pure mental being in its own character. Now note that word, in its own character, at its level it is perfect. This concept you must have very clearly. Everything is perfect at its own level. But the moment you compare it with something else, oh, there could be something more, then in that case it becomes imperfect. Mother says very clearly that the animal world is perfect in itself. Okay? Within the laws of the animal world, it works perfectly. But the moment you bring in the question of mind, oh, the animal does have a mind, so then that becomes imperfect. Okay? So this is what you have to understand. Now, in its own character, that's the word he is using. We have to understand exactly what he means by that. See, man, when he has a mind, it is perfect at its own level. It's working exactly according to the laws of the mental world. But when you go to a spiritual level of consciousness, You see that it is inadequate, therefore it is imperfect. Okay, that's exactly what he's saying. No doubt it would seem it would be a sufficient perfection for the pure mental being in its own character. In other words, a yogi who has entered the spiritual planes of consciousness can very well conclude that it is perfect and there is nothing else to be done. That's what he's meaning. Okay? But it would still fall far below the greater possibilities of the spiritual nature. You can go even beyond the higher mind, beyond the overmind. You can go to this even higher. For here too, our spiritual realization would be subject to the limitations of the mind, which is of the nature of a reflected, diluted, and diffused or a narrowly intensive light, not the vast and comprehensive self-existent luminosity and joy of the spirit. So if you want the comprehensive self-existent luminosity and joy, you have to go to the Supermind. That's what he is describing. Read the sentence carefully and you will see that. For here too, here is where? In the spiritual planes of consciousness. Our spiritual realization would be subject to the limitations of the mind. The mind that he is talking about is up to the overmind level. There is a limitation, which is in the nature of a reflected, diluted, and diffused or a narrowly intensive light, not the vast and comprehensive self-existent luminosity and joy of the spirit. So this big phrase, not the vast and comprehensive self-existent luminosity and joy of the spirit, is the Supermind. His description is very clear. First of all, it is vast, brihat, comprehensive, complete, self-existent. It doesn't need anything else. The light is self-existent. And joy, there is also another in it of the spirit. Then that is necessarily so. That vaster light, that profounder bliss are beyond the mental reaches. Now note the word, mental reaches. That means he is talking of the higher mind, element mind, or intuitive mind and over. They are the mental reaches. Okay? The spiritual planes of consciousness. Mind indeed can never be a perfect instrument of spirit. Mind, even the spiritual mind, can never be a perfect instrument of the spirit. There are limitations. A supreme self-expression is not possible in its movements because to separate, divide, limit is its very character. Remember that the overmind also starts breaking things up and starts to produce the many out of the one. And what does it mean to make many out of one? To separate, divide, limit is its very character. Even if mind could be free from all positive falsehood and error, even if it could be all intuitive and infallibly intuitive, it could still present and organize only half-truths or separate truths, and these too not in their own body, but in luminous representative figures put together to make an accumulated total or a mass structure. This whole sentence is very clear. What he's saying is that when you are at the overmind level, because he's talking of the idealism, remember? So he's saying even at the overmind level, what you find is that accumulated total mass structure, the truth of Vedanta is correct, the truth of Vishishtadvaita is correct, the truth of Dvaita is correct, but they are all partial and you are seeing them not as one but accumulated. It's a sum. So you see a luminous representative figures of all these put together, the mass structure, they are all true in their own way, but they are all separate. It's like A plus B plus C. But in the supermind, it is not A plus B plus C. It is one. You see the ultimate reality. That's what said the ultimate. Therefore, the self-perfecting mental being here must either depart into pure spirit by the shedding of its lower existence, or return upon the physical life to develop it in a capacity not yet found in our mental and psychic nature. This sentence is very interesting. We'll identify exactly what he's saying. Therefore, the self-perfecting mental being, which is the self-perfecting mental being, the spiritual planes of consciousness. Okay? So, not our mind. Our mind is not self-perfecting. Sometimes our mind, ordinary men have no desire at all to perfect their mind. Okay? But the self-perfecting mental being is spiritual planes of consciousness. Here must either depart into a pure spirit by the shedding of its lower existence. So what is meant by the shedding of the lower existence? You shed your body, your vital and your mind. You shed it. You get rid of it and return upon the physical life to develop in it a capacity not yet found in our mental and psychic nature. So, this is what Sylvia is saying, that if you want to perfect it, either you go up and disappear, we'll talk about that later on, or you come down, having got the treasures and the marvelous powers of the higher world, bring down those powers into the lower world and start making your mind, your life, and your body perfect. That's what it is. This is what the Upanishad expresses when it says that the heavens attained by the mind Purusha, are those to which man is lifted by the rays of the sun. This is Ishopanishad he is referring to. The diffused, separated, though intense beams of the supramental truth consciousness, and from these it has to return to the earthly existence. If it returns, it can make even the lower existence perfect. But the illuminates who renouncing earthly life, go beyond through the gateways of the sun, do not return either. So there is a normal idea in India, it has been like that you don't want to come back. So you disappear through the gateways of the sun. He is referring absolutely to the Isha Upanishad. Okay. Go beyond the gateways of the sun. Do not return. The mental being, exceeding his sphere, does not return, because by that transition he enters a higher range of experience peculiar to the superior hemisphere, the upper hemisphere. He cannot bring down its greater spiritual nature into this lower triplicity. The lower triplicity, your mind, your life, and your body. What's Srimad saying? He's saying you cannot bring it down if you disappear into the sun. Once you disappear into the sun, you cannot come back. The link is cut. You have to take birth again if you want. But if you go through the gateways of the sun, there is no more rebirth for you. Okay, that's what he's saying. For here, the mental being is the highest expression of the self. For here, the mental being is the highest expression of the self. Here, the triple mental, vital, and physical body provides almost the whole range of our capacity and cannot suffice for that greater consciousness. The vessel, which is the vessel? Your body, your vital, and your mind, has not been built to contain a greater Godhead or to house the splendors of the supramental force and body. The way the body-mind life is built at present, that's very clear. It cannot sustain the higher knowledge and the higher knowledge, light, power, ananda, it cannot sustain. That's what she is. Now, even the other one, that's very interesting, we'll just see that. He's saying, yeah, that's one second. Yeah. I'm reading the sentence beginning with, therefore the self-perfecting mental being. So, therefore, the self-perfecting mental being here in the physical world must either depart into pure spirit by the shedding of its lower existence. That means you lose your identification with body, mind, life. Your consciousness rises into the spiritual planes of consciousness, or return upon the physical life to develop in it a capacity not yet found in our mental and psychic nature. Now, this is exactly what happens in the near-death experience that Yasmin spoke about. Okay, so first of all, you go beyond your. I'm talking of the ND. The body is dead. Okay, there's no life. There's no breathing, and the heart also stopped beating. This is what happens in the NDE, near-death experience. And your being consciousness has gone up. But something is there which tells you that it is not yet your time to die. So you come back into the body and the heart starts beating again and the circulation also starts and your breathing also starts. The doctors can be stunned. Okay? For a short while, there is no life in the body. That also happens in trance. Okay? Sometimes there is no sign of life at all. So this is the, so Srendra is saying, the man who goes like that has a near-death experience. He's not saying that, but we are interpreting what he's saying. When it comes back again, he is no more that imperfect being that he was, because he has had a glimpse of the higher levels of consciousness, and many things happen to him. One of the things that happens to him is the fear of death disappears completely, because he knows there's a marvelous existence beyond the physical world. So this is one thing that happens, and you also hanker and you long for that higher consciousness. So you can never be the same again. So then you start developing capacities which you did not have earlier. A man who has had an NDE experience is completely, he takes a U-turn in his life. It can never be the same again. That's what Srendra is saying. So that completes this paragraph that is very interesting. And Srendra is at such a high level that experiences which people have in one life and they think it's fantastic, Srendra dismisses in one sentence. So that's he's so much experience he has got that this is what happened. He has discussed this near-death experience which people are writing books and books and books about. He has simply dismissed in one sentence here. So, okay, 8:36. I stop here today, and next time we'll read from this limitation is true. Only so long as man remains closed. So, Yasmin has to note down page 473. This limitation is true. Okay.